Okay, so today we're going to do a special because yesterday was the yahrzeit of the Mar of Hashamesh, who was one of the. Do you mind muting the mic, if you can? Who was the prime Talmud? I thought until today, literally, that he was one of the prime Talmidim of the Noam Elimelech. Apparently, he was the prime Talmud of the Noam Elimelech. This sefer is called the Shulchan Aruch of Chassidus. As in, like, this has basically got all the key concepts and fundamentals that you need. And if you learn this and you grasp what you can, it'll be much easier to learn other Sifrei Chassidus. So I heard. So it's always good to tell, especially the yahrzeit, or at least within 3 days of the yahrzeit. You know, you can go 3 days either way. To tell stories of the tzaddikim. So throughout the life of the Mar of Hashamesh, there's a few interesting things in terms of his encounter with Noam Elimelech and other tzaddikim, contemporary tzaddikim at the time. And it all starts when the Mar of Hashamesh was a young boy. If it was a normal thing for boys to kind of like go under the tzaddik, under the talis of the tzaddikim to see like what's going on in the talis when the tzaddik is davening. Or maybe they just went under their father's talis, like it was like funny, they were hiding, whatever else it is. But the Mar of Hashamesh wanted to see what was going on, as you know, under the talis of the Kedushas Levi, of the Badid Sheva, and what he saw then ignited the flame for the rest of his life, because from that point in time he was changed and no more running under talesim. And the story goes that he wanted to very much become part of the household, part of the entourage of the Noam Elimelech. And so he asked, and Noam Elimelech wasn't so keen on taking anyone on, particularly younger Bochrim. One thing, if you're already older and you've already started your path and your journey, but he didn't feel so comfortable. But Mar of Hashamesh was pretty relentless. Maybe where I've got it from. Got it from him. And he said, "Fine. You can serve me a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, a hot drink it was." And so I said, "Fine." I was so happy. He can serve the Rebbe, because just serving the Rebbe in itself was basically an opportunity to learn how the Rebbe acted, to learn how the Rebbe spoke to people, to learn how the Rebbe had the interactions. There was so much you could learn from each and every action. And the story goes that he made the hot beverage, shall we say, and I need to pay more attention to details when I read stories. And he walked into the room, and he saw that the Rebbe Elimelech was talking to someone, and he looked at that someone, and he got the shock of his life, and he ran down. He ran out, and as he ran out, he heard the Noam Elimelech saying, "Ay. A son can't even look his father in the face," because he was talking to Avraham Avinu, the Noam Elimelech. And so that's when the Mar of Hashamesh saw who the Noam Elimelech was talking to, and he saw the face, the radiating face. It was something which was very awesome, shall we say, and gave him the fright of his life. So those are the younger years of the Mar of Hashamesh with the Noam Elimelech. Towards the Noam Elimelech's ends of his life, so Noam Elimelech, we know, had many Talmidim, and some of the other more famous ones are the Reb Nachum Mendel of Rimanov, the Chayz of Lublin, the Koznitzer Magid, and the Abderov. Those are the Odav Yisrael. And I also think the Rabshitzer, Haftarah Tzvi of Rabshitz. Those are kind of like the 6 most prominent ones, including the Mar of Hashamesh. But shortly before the Noam Elimelech was nifta, the Mar of Hashamesh came to visit him, and the Noam Elimelech said in front of everyone, that I'm giving you my crown to continue the chain, the legacy. But the Mar of Hashamesh, in his humility, politely declined. But whether or not he declined, the message was received loud and clear that he was considered the most revered of all the Talmidim of the Noam Elimelech. So with that in mind, I thought we'd start today. I haven't got so much time, but I thought we'd at least start with a piece of the Mar of Hashamesh, which is why printed a piece from the beginning of the parasha. And the Marav Shemesh says like this: Nishmas Reb Kleinus Kalman ben Aaron Alevi. So amen. So it says in Parashas Chukas, Vaydaber Hashem al Moshe ve'Aaron Neimar. So this Chukas HaTorah asher tzil Hashem Neimar. Daber b'nei Yisrael v'yichelecha b'far Adom Atzmima asher im ba'amam asher lo ala alei ha'oyer. So this parasha is called Parashas Chukas because a Chok is a gzeir of the Melech. It's something that the king has decided, and it doesn't have to have any rhyme or reason. The mere fact that the king has told us to do it is enough for us to do it. Perish Rashi explains why does it say, particularly by the parasha of Parah Aduma, that this is a chok. He says like this: it's an interesting word that they use, moinin. It's almost as if like to count, but what they're saying is that they're being medactic and they're scrutinizing the Yidden and asking them always lots of questions about what they're doing. And they're saying, Ma mitzvah zeh, ma tamesh, but why are you doing this paraduma? This paraduma business, it's a strange thing. You're taking, so it has to be a special cow and a red cow, and you have to burn it, and it's almost looks. And in fact, I think the Ramban actually comments that the paraduma and egla arufa, for example, are very seemingly un-Jewish things to be doing, taking egel, chopping its head off by the water and washing your hand. It looks like voodoo business. It's almost like it doesn't have any place. And also the concept, and azazel as well. And the concept of a paraduma, with a red cow, and you burn it, and because the mother it's mechapa on the side, it's just, and the azazel throwing a goat off a rocky mountain. It's unlike any of the other mitzvahs. Like all the other mitzvahs,
it fits in.
A carbon is always brought in the Beis Hamikdash, and there's
still a kind of like
ritual. And I understand what you're saying in terms of ritual, but it's almost like it's not a Jewish type of ritual. Going back to rituals too, they had child sacrifice, human sacrifice, rituals as well. Meaning it's something which is very antithetical to the entire Jewish thought. Let's not forget the Rambam talks about in Hilchos Karbonos, the whole concept behind, the whole concept behind the karbonos in itself, and depending on which carbon it is, on a practical level, we can actually understand this. The idea is, I'm taking a carbon, I'm taking an animal, and this animal is being sacrificed, and then part of the animal is eaten by the kohanim, and sometimes sometimes it's all burnt up, so depending on what it is. But sometimes it's eaten by the kohanim, and sometimes it's eaten by the kohanim and the Baal HaKarban, the Yisrael. Why? So the Rambam says that the achila of the it brings something more, that the achila of the carbon is machapeh, the achila in itself. But what it means is that what I'm doing is that I'm starting a new cycle, that by consuming the food and releasing the energy within the food, which is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu created within this world, I am now saying I've eaten this to give me energy to now do mitzvahs, to now change my path from where I was. So that I can understand. I can understand the concept of karbonis because it's a practical thing. I did smicha, I kind of threw everything, through whatever I'd done, I threw off, and that was wrong, and I'm not that person anymore, and I'm starting anew. And how do I start anew? By getting new energy to start a new path in my life. But this, throwing animals off cliffs and stuff like that and chopping their heads off, it's like something of a horror movie. It's not really like it doesn't seem. The Ramban says this is actually al pi Kabbalah. It's almost as if, and please, because I'm saying it now, I'm putting this on you, but please look it up actually in there, because it's important to actually see the words. He says something akin to, because there are forces and evil in this world and they need to survive, it's almost as if this is done to, yes, give us the mitzvah, but kind of to appease them with all of the death and destruction. Because that's what these Azazel, Egla Arufa, and Paraduma, which Paraduma in itself is just burnt. There's nothing eaten from it. It's just complete utter destruction. And then the ashes are used, which in itself is something interesting, because it's ashes and then mixed with, again, that's not the topic here, but that's what the Ramban talks about. Anyway, coming back to the Ma'or Shemesh, I may not even be able to go to Noam Elimelech, but if we're learning the Ma'or Shemesh, it's like we're learning the Noam Elimelech itself, because without the Noam Elimelech, obviously, there might not have been as much in here. So, Says the Mara Shemesh. So Rashi explains why the Torah say Chukah. He says, Lama kosav zois chukas HaTorah. So why, if what Rashi is telling us, that the Parah Aduma is something which is not, like, a little bit antithetical to Jewish thought and Jewish way of life, then why does it say zois chukas HaTorah? It should say, meaning what that translates as, this is a chok on the Torah, on all the things that exist. Instead of focusing on this particular mitzvah paraduma, instead of saying zeh chok HaTorah, this is a chok within the Torah, which is paraduma. Because it says zeh adava. So it says the first time, and then it says again, why twice? He says, it seems to me, it says in the Sifri, Kol HaNeviim Nisnabu B'koi. When the Nevi'im said over the message that Hashem gave to them, they said, it started with Koi. But when Moshe Nisnabu, when he said the Nevuah, Nisnabu B'zeh HaDavar, this is it, with absolute clarity. To understand what's the difference between Koi and Zeh. On Torah Moshe, Torah Shabbat, you're not allowed to add even one letter. When it says in Mishnah Torah, that no Navi is allowed to add anything on it. And anything that the Nevi'im said, everything that they said actually had its source within the Torah itself. So it wasn't a Chiddush, because it was based on what Moshe had said. They all somehow find their root. How it is, I don't know. But he's saying it, so it must be true. And there are many times where the Gemara actually talks about the pasuk in Nevi'im and finds its root in the Torah. For example, Haman Menater Menayin. How do we know the concept of, meaning where's the root of Haman? And I always thought it was like, where's the root of it? Haman's baby is. Well, what it means is that the concept, if Megillas Esther was allowed to be incorporated as one of the Sfarim, then there must have been a root for it to be allowed to be added as one of the Sfarim, because there must have been a root in the Torah in itself. So it says Hamin Ha'etz, which in itself is a whole topic. And then the same thing about Mordechai, etc., etc. So we do find that Chazal do discuss this in several places. Yeah. So Rashi says, the Chumash is the foundation and the basis for the entire Nevi'im Ksuvim. And all of them have some where cracks within the Torah so that they can actually be incorporated. That's why when the Nevi'im said Koi Shu Kamoi Pirish al Torah, as in what I am saying now is like what the Torah says about this particular case. Shadava ha'amor b'Torah Moshe. It's a thing that's already been mentioned, Koi, like this, like what I'm saying has previously been said. The Torah's Chamush Torah in itself is the fundamental, and the only reason why we have the other Nevi'im and Ksuvim that added on, it's almost like it's Perush on what is already written in the Torah. All the mitzvahs HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, that's why Moshe Rabbeinu said Zeh. This is it concretely, clearly, this is the source. Because okay, that's why it's called Torah Shebiksav. Sorry, Al Nikra Torah Shebiksav is Zeh. Torah Shebiksav is called Zeh. Torah Shebal Peh, however, he mashatanoma v'amerom nosnu tam mitzvahs. Torah Shebal Peh is like the actual speech. The Torah Shebiksav is the notes, the actual foundation for all of it, and the Torah Shebal Peh goes to explain what Torah Shebiksav is saying. The Ikar Hadim Sheb Torah Shebal Peh removes from Torah Shebiksav. Again, nothing has been machadish within itself. The source of everything is in the Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu said it from what he heard from Hashem. That's why it's called Torah Shebal Peh. Sorry, again. Torah Shebal Peh is Zeis. Torah Shebal Peh is called Zeis and not Zeh. Why Zeis? Zeis is feminine. Feminine is makabel. The concept of being makabel is where it's receiving the inspiration from somewhere else. From where? From the masculine, from the Zeh. So the Zeh is the Torah Shebiksav, and the Zeis is the Torah Shebal Peh. Which is one of the reasons why Zeis Chanukah is considered so important And again, that's another thing in itself. I mean, you can spend probably days and days and days on every paragraph, and it is, but unfortunately, it's not something we have right now. Finally, this is actually a very, very interesting part that he's going to mention now. You're allowed to teach the goyim. Goyim are allowed to learn Torah Shebuksav. If not, I think the whole concept of the Old Testament and everything would be incorporated in the main religions in the world would not have happened. Moshe Rabbeinu wrote in 70 languages the Torah on stones, the Hainu B'Shem Noshe. But Torah Sheba'al Peh, which actually goes into the kishkas and the neshama of what each mitzvah actually is. You mustn't teach it to a guy. It's ours. That's what it's saying. It's a gzeira. Hashem said, I've given you this Torah as it's written, in its written format. The goyim can read it, they can translate it, they can theologize, or however you call it about it. They can interpret it whatever they want. That's fine. That's completely up to them. But Torah Sheba'al Peh, that's not theirs.
But it would have been better not to give it to them at all, because they interpret it wrong.
It would have been better not to give it, but we didn't give it to them, did we? We're kind of
stole
forced. Yeah, the Septuagint, they were forced.
They got hold of it, basically.
And you see what happened. You see what happened when it was translated, and how it had the power to become something amazing, but it was corrupted as a vehicle for power. And the massacres of the Crusades.
The Muslims interpret the whole thing completely.
And well,
Ishmael is a chosen one.
Yeah, well,
Jacob. I mean,
it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart that the main religions of the world, Christianity and Islam, had the opportunity, because the people throughout the ages there have been wise people that could have turned the tide had they had the courage enough to do so, but instead they allowed it to be used as a vehicle for bloodshed and for destruction instead of creating peace. But Mitzvah Shem B'Kor B'Meinu, we will have peace. So that's what he says. The Gzeras HaKosov is that you can't teach a guy Torah Sheba'al Peh, and it's actually something which comes up quite often. You're standing in an elevator, and many years ago in Israel, I think it was the Ramada Hotel. They've got a lot of Christian missionary conventions or whatever. Standing in the elevator, my tzitzis out, and this black shirted white collared priest is asking me, pointing at my tzitzis, asking me, "What's this?" And I almost wanted to say, "What do you mean? It's from a Mefurish Pasuk. You should know this stuff." As I said, it's the numbers it talks about having on the corners of a four-cornered garment. Interesting. So that, for example, that's Torah Shebuksav. That you can say. But once a guy starts asking, what's the reason behind it, and what's this and that, besides the fact that it's not good to engage in these conversations anyway, it's because you're not allowed to. The Moral Shemesh is very explicit about it and says, you're just not allowed to. You're not allowed to get into it because it's ours. It was given to us. It's not ours to give away.
The South Korean, they came to Israel. They went to Mir Yeshiva.
Oh yeah.
A whole group of them, and they studied Gemara there. They let them study. Why? They took it back. They teach it in the curriculum in all high schools in
really?
Korea.
All high schools?
Yeah, it's taught. It's like part of the curriculum. They have to study. It's compulsory to study Gemara.
Wow.
Because they said it brings wisdom.
So how
did they allow them to come to Yeshiva to study it?
Well, that's a good question. But the thing that you see here, that what they've done is, again, they've used it as a tool. Torah is not a tool. Torah is not a means to an end.
To get wiser, educate themselves. I mean, they probably don't even understand it like they're supposed to.
Well, I don't know. They may understand better than I do. I don't know. Asians are quite smart.
How's it coming to the...
We're talking about the concept that Zoyis Chakas Torah means...
That didn't say
Moav Shemesh is the prime Talmud of the Noam Elimelech. It was his Yotzat yesterday, so we're doing Moav Shemesh.
Oh, really? I was confused.
Yeah. He didn't come to the wrong shir. So, but if a guy starts trying to engage, the truth of the matter is that for us, sitting, I was thinking this Shabbos, you have a pre-mincha shir, sitting there, we're talking about the halacha. That kind of Oneg Shabbos, a guy can't relate to, besides the fact that the guy doesn't have Shabbos, But that concept of learning good Torah, a good pshat, that kind of tanug was not built in within the non-Jewish anatomy. It's just not possible. So besides the fact that it's wasted, the Torah says you can't teach them. This is what it means. To koi haTorah shebal peh shenikras Torah. Zois chukas haTorah. When it says it's a chukah and it's gzeira that you're not allowed to teach, it goes about Torah shebal peh, not Torah shebeksav. Lazeh, because Torah shebeksav is considered zeh. Lazeh perish Rashi. So Rashi explains shefish hasotan v'mis olam moines Yisrael mahamitzvah hazois. What is this mitzvah? Talking about the zois, which is Torah shebal peh, umatam yesh bo, and what is the whole understanding and the mechanics behind this mitzvah? Shnayis, Gemara, Zayah, Medrash, etc., etc. V'lama also legalo is Torah shebal peh. Why not allowed to read it? Lefikach kasav ba chuka. It's the gzeira of the melech. Shtov zeh hi gzeira of melech. Shtiv Hashem lema perish. And Torah shebal peh tziv Hashem lema. Torah shebal peh, Hashem said lemoy. It's to say, what does it mean lemoy? Perish ki ala Torah shebal peh mutar lechadish chadushin. You are allowed to do chadushim. We are allowed to add. In fact, everyone is encouraged, and if somebody's machalish something and doesn't share it, they're considered the ganef, because that Kodesh Baruch Hu is giving them divine insight to share with other people. And so if anybody ever, that's why I prefer to call this a chabor instead of a shir, because if anybody has anything to share, I want them to share. If I stop long enough for people to be able to share. And therefore, a mitzvah lechadish kol hayom she'anu oiskim ba. It's a mitzvah. Every time you're machadish, it's not just limit Torah, it's a mitzvah of being machadish.
Wow.
Afilu im yiche ish elef shanim, if you live for 1,000 years, in day bo'e perusha shel Torah, it'll never be enough to explain the entire Torah. Karucha me'eretz midah, because it is infinite. Avol. Torah shall also have also chadash Torah me'ata. You're not allowed to add onto the no letters, no words, no tamim, no degashim, nothing. Zero lemoy koloima. And that's why it says lemor twice. So that's why does it say twice lemor? One lemor is for the pasha pshat, to say the mitzvah. The second lemor is to teach you that which Torah can you be machadash, the Torah which is zois. But be very much aware that this chidushim is not to share with Ummah Sa'olam. It's for Klal Yisrael. This is it belongs to us, but Torah shebechsav can be shared with Ummah Sa'olam. So Ad Kan Moed Shamesh. Let's spend whatever few minutes we have left on the Noam Elimelech. There's actually a short piece actually in it, which is pretty self-contained again in the beginning of the parsha. Yeah, it's on the other side. Yeah.
Ah, very good.
Zois Chukas haTorah. Perish Rashi. Here we go again. So again, so he focuses on the same Rashi. Lekach ksiv ba chukah. That's why it says chukah. What does that mean? Lema gzeira hi melefonai ein lechor shus la'ar achreya. So before what Rashi seemed to be saying, according to what the Moed Shamesh understood, was that you may know the reason for it, but don't share it. It's not for you. You're not supposed to share it with Ummah Sa'olam. It's yours. Keep it to you. But the Noam Elimelech is going to say something else. Don't, if it comes to a mitzvah and you're doing the mitzvah and you're doing mitzvah because like Kodesh Baruch Hu said, and then you start thinking, hey, why am I doing this? You're not allowed to think about it. You're not allowed to try and understand it. Understand it is something else. But there shouldn't be the reason for why you're doing it. If I don't understand, I'm not going to do it. You should continue with your same as lahavas, the same way you're doing it before, and all the while thinking, I'd like to know more about this. You have to ask. How long kosov Rashi b'shem Ramesh Adashin Tal Mitzvah Zud Tovei Parah? Because later on Rashi explains what's the reason for the paraduma, because the parah should come and clean up the mess of the egel. Because the only reason why Klal Yisrael had the concept of tumah is because of the egel, and therefore the paraduma has to come, because when we got the Torah at Sinai, we were supposed to live forever. There's supposed to be no tumah. There's supposed to be no misa. And then what happened with the egel is that was brought back into the world, and therefore because there's now a concept of tumas meis, therefore we need the paraduma to get rid of that tumas meis so that we can continue our day-to-day life with the karbanos. In kosher, so you see there is a reason. Okay, when sheish b'tam lama kseh b'chukah. So why is it chukah? It seems to be a stira. So now he goes into the anatomy. The person has 248 limbs, Shalagidim, and 365 sinews. It corresponds to the 248 mitzvahs asay and the 365 lois asay. Each limb or sinew, tole mitzvah achas. So we know the Gid Anosha, for example, corresponds to the Gid Anosha in the body. Because in the moment that Yaakov Avinu was hit by the Gid Anosha, immediately there was now the chiyus of this Gid Anosha was toloi in the loisase of not eating Gid Anosha. Taking of Kiblu V'Sola Mitzvah Tliyah Begin. Almost Mekatrig Tamid. They're always judging us. They're always being Mekatrig because it doesn't matter what we do. But this is what they're being Mekatrig about. Tamad is so liros. Imhem Shleima Mitzvah Same. Are they really genuine? Are they really authentic? Of Mitzvah Zusha Paradumo. Em Yod Manyona. They don't even know what's going on. They're just doing it. Okay. Because what they do is they count. Apparently, there are some goyim that do this. Because the goyim are counting 248 Evarim, and there's 365 Gidim. And they can't see the corresponding place in the body where the Parah Aduma would be connected to. If this Parah Aduma mitzvah is not connected to somewhere in the body, then why are you doing it? This is the answer. The Klal Yisrael were not supposed to do the Chet Egel. Really, it shouldn't have never happened. It was to teach us a lesson, the concept that an entire tzibur can do tshuva. And that's why we have to go through the Chet Egel. And that's why we got the mitzvah of the parah. The concept of tshuva works for a tzibur. Nimsa kol ikka hatam parah ubishvel chayte.
You still a second.
I think it's a printing mistake. Chayte or egel.
Yeah. Is
that
true you said?
One second. Let me finish the paragraph 1 second. But achet gufa laher ki im lahers tshuva. The chet itself is only for tshuva. But atzma chukah. Okach ksiv ba chukah. Meaning, why do we need to teach about teshuvah? That is a chok. The reason why I have Parah Aduma and the Egel, that connection we can understand. But why was it that Klal Yisrael had to do the Chet Egel to teach teshuvah? That's a chukah. That is something which is about to understand. Yeah.
To answer the question, question.
Yeah.
Rashi gives a reason, but then says there wasn't a reason.
No, first he says there wasn't a reason.
There wasn't a reason because
then he says there is a reason.
Necessary. Is that the point?
Oh yeah. Meaning we
shouldn't have needed the mitzvah.
We shouldn't need the mitzvah. So why? So the reason why I have Parah Aduma is because of Chet Egel, which should have never happened because it doesn't have. It's true that it doesn't have a corresponding. Oh, sorry, what?
Then it would have been a real chayk.
Then it would have been a real chayk, but
comes along the Egel, then it has a reason.
Yeah.
Just remember one thing here. This is very important.
Yeah.
He's saying a huge chiddush here.
The
Yidden didn't do the Egel. They had no bechira for the Egel.
You're not saying that.
He's saying that.
No, can't be that.
They didn't do the Aveira because they wanted to.
He chooses his words very
Hashem
carefully.
made them do the Aveira.
No.
Teach them that
All they did.
No. Okay, no. Okay. You have to read the words very carefully.
It's very. What are you saying? It's very dakistic.
No, but it's not. But it is dakistic. But he's not saying that ein lahem bechira. He said lo hayu ru'uyin la'osa ma'asa. Now you have to understand, what does it mean they were not fit to do? Meaning Klal Yisrael was at a very high level, and according to the level, Chet Egel should have never happened. But it's almost as if, like the story of Yehuda and Tamar, which is something which is bizarre, shouldn't have happened. There's always an element of choice within it. But if not for the lo hayu ru'uyin, and Klal Yisrael would have chosen, it may have been a more difficult choice for them to do the Chet Egel, meaning maybe there may not have been as many people, and that's the Baruch Hashan's cheshbon. But the moment that we say they didn't have choice, then if they didn't have choice, then why did so many people get killed? Why are we still suffering under Yemazet of Chet Egel? That's not fair. We didn't have choice. So we have to understand
I've heard it before.
Yeah. And the same thing is Elimelech and Bathsheba is also tshuva for Yochid. These are all things. These are all, instances in history where we think to ourselves, what on earth is going on here? What on earth is going on? And truth be told, that possibly is what it means, chukah. Like, what on earth is going on here? why was it that the Klal Yisrael had to do the Chet Egel? You know, because you're going to say, what's the paraduma? Chet Egel. Okay, well, what is going on here? Maybe that is the question that we're trying to understand. Like, why did this happen? Like, yes, we had certain things as a nation coming out of hundreds of years of slavery to kind of work on ourselves. No doubt there'll be things we need to iron out. But Chet Egel is pretty severe. And in fact, if you actually look in the Moreh B'Shemesh on Kisisa, talking about the Chet Egel, the intention we mentioned last week, intentions don't have to be bad to be wrong. The intentions were not bad intentions. In fact, they kivnu l'shem shamayim, but they got it completely wrong because the Torah says you're not allowed to make a Elohim Asecha. So it's just not allowed. Whether your intention is to serve me or not, that is irrelevant. And why am I saying that? I'm saying that because I've lost my train of thought. There's a lot to be asked. There's a lot to be asked on why that happened, and how it happened, and why it happened, and why it had to happen in that particular way. For example, the fact that we know there's a medrash that tells us that really, they didn't even intend to make an egel, but it just so happened that somebody threw in alei shar, which Moshe Rabbeinu had inscribed to bring up the bones of Yosef HaTzadik from the Nile,
exactly.
and they threw it in the fire, and out came an egel. It's almost like it was a complete fluke. That was never the intention. And so you can see how there are, and where did this start? It started when Moshe Rabbeinu was asking Hashem, how can you allow this to happen? Where the Egyptians are telling the Jews to build their children in the wall and all these terrible things. Spare this child, spare this child. And the Moshe said, fine, I'll spare the child, but I know what I'm doing. Watch this space. And years later, this is the particular child that took this alei shar and threw it into the egel. But again, there are certain kind of things, and Moshe Rabbeinu was expected to daven for this child. These are things you can't for 1 second think, oh well, Moshe Rabbeinu's fault. He wouldn't have done for the child, then they would have come out. No. There's certain things that we have to do as individuals, but there are events which seem to have been very clearly have been put together one after the other like bricks to then create the inevitable incident of the egel. And for that we ask, what's pshat? The haris tshuva l'Rabbim. Okay. So I understand now that the Rabbim can do teshuvah, but was it worth the price? Think of what we lost. That's a chukah, and that we can think about in terms of wanting to understand something, but it should never be a reason for the kiyum and not being mekayim it. Shkoyach everyone. See you next week, Mr. Shem.